Bum-ba-da-dum. Howdy, welcome to BanjoBenClark.com. I'm Banjo Ben, your host here on the site that teaches you how to play banjo and guitar. But this week is Mandolin Week, and we're doing a beautiful duet on one of my favorite old hymns. I've actually had lots of requests for this one, and as we roll around toward Easter, I thought that this was a great opportunity to do this old hymn. Jesus paid it all. So we're going to do the mandolin lesson, then we'll have a separate guitar lesson. And what I love about this arrangement is that we have these two solos, right? So then we put them together as a duet. But both of those solos can stand apart on their own. So even if you don't have a guitar player or a mandolin player to play with, you get something out of this lesson. But we're also going to talk about how to play with one another and how to build arrangements that support when other people play solos. So we've got lots to talk about. If you're watching somewhere else besides the website, I'd love to have you on board the site. If you are watching here on the site as a Gold Pick member, scroll down the page, you'll find the rest of the lesson resources, including the tabs, and you can play along with me because I have MP3 tracks that are guitar only or mandolin only, or you can hear them both together. Let's get started. First thing I want to mention is that I wrote this in the key of C, which is a great key to sing it in. So not only does this work well as a duet with a guitar, but it would work well to play for someone to sing along with, maybe even yourself as a solo piece. The other thing I want to point out is that it is a waltz. We have 3 beats in each measure, so we'll keep that in mind as we look at the tab. And as we look at the tab, you might notice that I don't have our pick stroke arrows written in this one like I normally do. And that's because we're going so slow that you can use whatever pick strokes you want. You could almost play the whole thing with downstrokes. It's going so slow. We just want to try to be as smooth as we can, and that's what we're going to talk about as we go through the lesson is how to play this as smoothly, as pretty as we can. Then as we get into supporting the guitar solo in the second half of the lesson, we're going to talk about note choice and thinking about what other instruments are doing. So we've got a couple pickup notes here as we come into the melody, and I want to point out that we want to bring our melody notes out. So it's important that you know the melody. We also have our lyrics there beneath each one of the notes to kind of help us keep track of where we're at. But we want to bring out those melody notes and then let the other notes that we play, because we're going to play lots of other notes, be supporting notes and not be quite as loud, not be as pronounced as our melody notes. It's interesting. We start out over a C chord. We're going to make a C chord. And most of our melody notes in this first phrase are going to fall right in that C chord. So you hear the melody notes. So let's bring those out and then make the other notes maybe just a little bit more in the background. Go to a G chord, and we'll just go open. Okay, so I'll play that whole first line for you there, and just listen to how I bring out the melody and what I do with the supporting notes. Now, as we go into the second phrase, we're going to use a lot of the same notes, but I want to change positions on us so that we can add a cool little effect. I want to get a little hammer-on in there. So this time, to fret the 5 and the 3 in measure 7, I'm going to slide up and play it with my first 2 fingers instead of my middle 2. Now, if that's too difficult for you, that's okay. You can play it just the same way that the first phrase, because the melody's the same. Now, when we land down here on that 5th fret, I'm going to play an A minor chord, and that's not how hymnals will usually present this song, but I just thought it was a beautiful substitute chord, so we're going to do it. And really the only difference between an A minor and a C chord is that we're going to throw an A note in there instead of a G note. And that's why we're playing that open A string. Now, you may wonder there in measure 9 what that chord is, C over G. Well, that's just simply a C chord with a G note in the bass, which when you play an open C chord on mandolin is exactly what you end up with, a C chord with a G note in the bass. And hymns do that a lot. Now, those last 4 notes there, before we go into the chorus, are 16th notes. They're going to happen twice as fast as our 8th notes, and I'll usually use down-up pick strokes for those. Okay, so this whole line. So get into the chorus, keep that middle finger down. We're going to slide into that 5th fret. And now I don't have it written in the tab, but after you do that hammer on measure 11 and you play that 5th fret again, I'm going to slide down to grab that 2nd fret. I'm sliding down with my middle finger to grab that 2nd fret with my index, and that just creates a really pretty effect. Listen. You don't have to do that, but it's just one of those little nuances that makes your mandolin playing more pretty. Measure 12, we're going to tremolo. That's what those little tilde marks are there. And I want to tell you that you can tremolo as fast or as slow as you want to there. You may go into a turbo mode or just play it more slowly like I do. But we want to loosen our pick grip, go through both of those strings with both our down and up strokes. So that tremolo there in measure 14 is over a G chord. Here's our melody note. This is a harmony note. So that whole line. Aren't those pretty? I'm going to slide again into measure 15. In the measure 16, we have some interesting chords. Okay, so the melody does that, and it goes to an F chord on the 2nd beat. It kind of throws your ear for a loop, and I think this is one of the prettiest moments in any hymn. So we're going to get some F harmony there over the F chord, and then our melody is going up to the C note, but our chord is going to change to an F sharp diminished. What's an F sharp diminished? Well, an easy way to explain it would be to take an F chord, which is F, A, C, F, and just sharp the F note to an F sharp, but leave the other notes the same. So instead of the arpeggio being, it would be. Okay, so another way that you can kind of think about it is to play a D7. And most of your D7 double stops would work for an F sharp diminished. And that's kind of what we're doing. So we have an F sharp here and a C. That whole line. Going to the backup for the guitar solo, but in measure 16, I want to point out stylistically to leave your middle finger down. So actually, for the very last notes in measure 16, that's just kind of a slide up from the position that we're in. Then move everything up 1 fret. Let's play this solo now all the way through slowly, and then we'll get into the backup for the guitar part. If you're watching somewhere else besides banjobenclark.com, I'd love to have you over as a GoPick member. You can have access to this full lesson, download the tabs, get the MP3 practice tracks, and I have the MP3 track where it's just the guitar, so you could play along with me for our very own little duet. Love all y'all. Happy Easter if you're watching this around Easter time, and remember that Jesus has paid it all. All we need to do is trust him.